Thank you, and thank you to everybody who is making their time today to attend this brief discussion of Pi in the Home. My name is Mike Riley. I'm the author of Portable Python Projects published by Pragmatic Bookshelf. And today I'm just going to briefly go over why the Pi in the home. So let's go ahead and get started. So home, Internet of Things, or IoT. Why build versus buy, especially given the plethora of different devices that are currently available in the market today? Well, as some of you who are following some of the security issues that are prevalent within some of the less expensive and lesser known products, but also these products are relatively popular because of their price and their accessibility. A lot of times what happens is either because of poor development or because of intentional aspects, certain data is being leaked from your organization or from your home, and you may or may not be aware of that kind of data leakage. Consequently, it would be really good to know what information is being shared and whether or not you authorize it. So a lot of times with these black box pre-built Internet of Things devices, there's not an easy way to do that, if at all. Another thing that is prevalent or a good possibility of utilizing the Pi is because you get to control the devices precisely how you want to control them. And consequently, that is something that is really, really powerful, especially when you are doing custom development or custom application deployment in your home. Now, granted, in order to do that, you do need to know a little bit of programming, but fortunately, the languages that are out there, particularly Python, which is very, very popular on the Pi, make it very easy to do. There's a lot of examples that are available on the internet. There's a lot of YouTube videos. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. And then, of course, there are books like mine that help to understand how to very easily control certain aspects of your home and your hardware and customization without doing a lot of code. And then the other thing that I really find enjoyable about the whole process is just how fun it is. When you put together something and it works, it's really sort of like building a model and then not just being able to sit back and enjoy what you've built, but interacting with it and constantly iterating it and improving it, sharing the ideas. And that's one of the things that I found particularly enjoyable about writing the book, was to be able to come up with some of these ideas and being able to share it with people. And that's what the book is all about. So let's take a look at what it takes to be able to get started on something like this. Well, first you do need a computer, because that's where you're going to do a lot of initial development, a lot of being able to look up. Now, granted, you can use the Pi exclusively, but the Pi, even in its most current state, which I prefer the 4B plus or better, it's much better than the original Pi, but it's still probably not what I would consider a full-blown day-to-day use PC. It's still a little sluggish when it comes to the desktop, but as I say, it's considerably faster and more responsive than it has been in the past. I would say that probably in the next 3 to 5 years, the Pi is going to be on par with the capabilities that you would see out of normal desktop or laptop performance. But for right now, using a PC or Mac is probably a little easier to at least get up to speed and write some of the initial code for testing and being able to just basically look up on the internet for certain items or things of that nature. Obviously, other things you're going to need are just basic internet or input-output devices to be able to communicate with the Raspberry Pi, including things like a keyboard or mouse. It's also really going to be beneficial to use some existing home automation products that have Python libraries, such as the Philips Hue, Google Home. I would steer clear of HomeKit for now. Apple is still keeping that relatively closed, and there's not a lot of really easy means to be able to interact with HomeKit because of its closed protocol. So consequently, I would try to stick towards sort of a more open products, such as the Hue has been a really a very big product in the open source community, just because the Hue APIs are easy to access. And then other things that you may need for the projects, and particularly in the projects in the book, you would probably want to look at a IR infrared controller via a USB connection. And then there's the Pi camera, which is actually from the Raspberry Pi Foundation, where the Pi comes from. And that camera comes in handy because it's inexpensive and has high resolution for being able to take pictures, both still and video pictures. And it has remarkably high resolution for its inexpensive price. So the other thing you're going to need to know is learning Python. Now, in the book, I try to keep the scripts that are running for the projects as short and as simple as possible, but it's still, if you have never programmed ever before, it would probably be a benefit to go and at least take some initial courses, or watch a couple of videos, or take some tutorials. There's plenty of different options out there, the free learning options out there that are available, either from python.org, which is where you can download the distributions for the languages, as well as learn about how to use Python. There's a lot of YouTube, a couple of Stack Overflows that will nudge you in the right or possibly the wrong direction. You have to be particularly scrutinizing when it comes to some of the answers that are given on Stack Overflow. Some of them may not be the optimal answer, but at least it'll get you thinking about what to do next if you do get stuck. And then there's a wonderful book from Pragmatic Bookshelf called Practical Programming. It's all about learning Python you've never programmed before and you want to learn how to program, and using Python because of the simplicity and the organized nature of the language. It makes it a really fun way to learn about the language from start to finish. So I would highly recommend that book as a learning opportunity. And then learning about the Pi. Now the Pi is a fairly straightforward piece of hardware, although it can look a little intimidating the first time you see it because it's an exposed motherboard with a couple of connectors. And if you've never worked with it before, it may take a little bit of time, but again, there's a lot of resources out there if you've never worked with the Pi. The Raspberry Pi Foundation at the Raspberry Pi website has plenty of tutorials to get through. Of course, there's a lot of YouTube videos, and another pragmatic book that came out a few years ago, but it's still relevant, is Mike Schmidt's Raspberry Pi book. And it's also published by Pragmatic Bookshelf, a wonderful book that I would highly recommend if you want to get a really defined walkthrough of what the Pi is and some of the capabilities of the Pi. Now, the book is a little older, so it doesn't cover the latest Pi, which is the 4B plus, but it still gives a good overview of what the Pi does and some of the possibilities that the Pi can do. So let's talk about some of those possibilities. I know I don't have a lot of time with this presentation, but I will show you briefly some of the things that I've built that I can show on the screen. A lot of the things that are in the book are interacting with actual physical devices. For instance, you'll learn in the book how to build a water spill detector. So if you have a washing machine like I do, where it tends to act up on occasion and leak water and sometimes can make a mess, it would be really nice to know when that water leak is occurring so I can stop the washing machine or have it actually stop on its own so that I don't have to clean up the mess afterwards. That's one option, or one of the projects in the book. Another project in the book is it's sort of like a thermostat, where if you are in a home office or in a environment where it can sometimes get a little warm, which in my room where I work, it can occasionally, it would be nice to not have to turn on and off a fan based on what I think is sometimes warm or cold. So using the Pi and a temperature monitor, I can actually have that fan automatically turn on and off when it reaches a certain temperature. So that's really nice. And then some of the others are other home automations, such as turning on, using the USB to IR infrared blaster, you can go ahead and control devices that were, I would say, pre-internet, pre-IoT. A lot of the legacy devices, televisions, other type of remote controlled products, and some of them are still in use today, but they don't talk to the cloud. They don't talk to your internet or your Wi-Fi for that matter. But it would be really nice to be able to control them, and using an USB to IR connector, which I talk about in the book, it brings those products into a home automation capability. And in fact, I'm going to demonstrate, well, actually, I can demonstrate that a little later if we have time. But for right now, I will demonstrate two quick projects. The first is being able to turn on and off your computer through your voice. And I'll demonstrate that right now. Hey, Google, turn on the computer.
Turning on your computer.
And while you can't see it right now, my computer is actually turning on. And that is done through a combination of different technologies, which I did, again, go into a little step-by-step detail within the book. But I'm using a service known as IFTTT, which is if this, then that. There's also a service called Pushbullet, which allows you to broadcast messages on a push basis. And then I'm using, within the Pi itself, Etherwake. And then in order to turn off the computer, I'm actually using SSH to go into the computer that's turned on and initiating a turn it off command. So I can do that now, in fact. Hey, Google, turn off the computer.
Turning off your computer.
And there goes my computer. It's just turned off. So what's really nice about that is, once again, you could just simply have your computer in sleep mode and then be able to move your mouse or touch your keyboard. But if you're away from your computer and you want to get files on it, again, this will work wherever you can speak to like a Google Home or an Amazon Alexa to be able to indicate that. I found it really helpful when I needed to get files and transfer them to my laptop. And yet I don't want to go all the way downstairs to turn on my computer. I can just initiate that command and turn the computer on. Or if you happen to have a home automation system where it's hooked up to a television and you've got your computer connected to that, it's nice and convenient to be able to turn on your computer and be able to navigate your computer without having to have a keyboard and mouse somehow sitting on the couch. Another quick project I'll show you is, while it's nice to have the Pi interact with hardware, a lot of times when that Pi is just sitting idle waiting for these commands, it can also serve as a server, and it does a really good job with that. Obviously, as you get more familiar with application development, you learn about things like Git, and you learn about repositories. The Raspberry Pi is a great Git server where you can check in and out your code as you continue to iterate with the project that you create. But you can also run services on the Pi, and I show one of them being a Discord bot. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Discord. It is a very popular instant messaging service that is growing in popularity as days progress. And the Discord Reddit bot that I created and talk about in the book allows you to very, very easily create a bot that will go and interrogate certain Discord channels that you've subscribed to and show you updates. Now, granted, you could go ahead and simply log in on a web browser, or you can get a custom built Reddit app that will go ahead and do that for you. But a lot of times, particularly if you're a heavy user of Discord, or you just like the fact that you have a different approach that you can visit your Reddit posts, the Discord bot will allow you to do that. So let me actually bring up my Discord bot. And just in the sake of time, I've gone ahead and made some quick queries and just asking, okay, Reddit bot, what are some of the new stories? And again, in my book, I'll show you how to not only get these type of interactions working, but you'll also see how you can actually link them. So while I won't actually click on any of these, they will open up to the page that it's talking about so you can get more details. This way, it's not just filling up your screen with a lot of extemporaneous detail. The other thing you can do, which is kind of nice, is custom commands. So for instance, if I wanted to clear all this out, I would just issue this clear. And what this is actually doing is it's going ahead and hiding all of the messages. Now, one of the things that I never really liked about Reddit is the fact that it doesn't work like email, where, once you've read an email, or once you read, say, something, if you've got an RSS reader and you've read the story, well, then that story will go away. It's not that it's been deleted, but it's just hidden from your view. So it doesn't keep coming back over and over and over again. But what you'll learn about in the Reddit bot is that by simply adding a couple of these custom commands, you can turn that into the ability to hide these stories. So I've gone ahead and hidden these stories. Now, if I go ahead and list any new stories, probably, and these are just some of the demonstrations that I've gone up, but as you can see, some of these now that were not hidden are showing up, but it's not going to be a huge lengthy list that was previously hidden from my last query. So yeah, a lot of new stories come up, but nevertheless, it's a way to just kind of filter out so that when there's only new stories to show, this is a way to quickly show that. So I really like the way that the Reddit bot turned out. And there's also one other sort of Discord bot in the book, which is utilizing the Pi camera. And it also uses a motion detector so that you can set up your Pi as a sort of a security camera, if you will, so that anytime there is any kind of motion detected, the Pi camera will take a picture and actually post it to your Discord channel, a protected private Discord channel, so that you can see whenever you're running Discord, whether it's on your computer or if it's on a mobile device, that right away you'll get a response of an image, an actual image of any of that motion that's been detected, so that it's kind of a motion detecting security camera. So those are just some of the projects that you'll see in the book. And I really hope that you've enjoyed what I've shown you so far today. And if you do have any other questions, or you'd like to find out more about the book, or have questions about the projects in the book, you're welcome to email me or tweet me at those addresses. And certainly feel free to check out my book at pragprog.com/titles/mrpython. And thank you so much. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. Do you have any questions that people have got?
I'm taking a look right now at like we just got a couple of comments, which are really nice. No questions yet, but I'll certainly stay for just a little bit longer to see if anyone does have any further questions.
Sometimes it takes one person to ask, and then it's like the floodgates have opened.
That's right.
Give it another minute or so, and oh, yeah, here we go. One's coming in.
Oh, good. This is a good question. So what is the most difficult projects that use Python and Pi? Well, it really depends on what your interests are. Python is an incredibly flexible language, and there's so many different libraries out there that it's really almost like building Lego bricks, because you bring all these aspects together and put them together. In terms of the book, I would say probably the longest code listing I have is on what I call Pi Speak. And that's where I'm utilizing the Google text-to-speech translation service, and also created a RSS reader that will utilize a database so that you're not constantly having to reread over RSS feeds that you've already consumed, but then converting those RSS feeds into text, or from text to speech, and then packaging that up so that you can listen to it on your mobile phone. So that was a fun project. And again, it helps so that if you do subscribe to a lot of RSS feeds, that is one project that's a lot of fun and also really helpful and a time saver, because if you're commuting or if you're cleaning house, exercising, what have you, and you don't particularly have the time to be able to read through all those feeds, but you want to sort of know what's going on, that is one certain way to do it. But there are a number of other Python projects that are Pi focused, a lot of websites. In fact, the Raspberry Pi website itself has a couple of links to different websites that really feature exclusively Pi projects that are out there. So there are a lot of interests. There's also various Reddit forums that are available. Again, some of them are better than others, but what I hope to do with the Portable Python project book is to ignite your interest so that you've got a springboard to be able to develop upon, and from there sort of expound on your own ideas, and perhaps one day write a book of your own that shares those very same projects. We got another question here. Have you tried any other programming languages other than Python to automate on the Pi? Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, I've gone and done some Java. I've actually written a few Go and even some .NET because all those languages will run just fine on the Pi. But I keep coming back to Python mostly because of the speed and the iterative development capabilities and the rich ecosystem of different libraries that are available for the Python language. While certainly Go, .NET, Java run just great, and because they are compiled, they often run faster than a Python script will on the Pi. But then there is, of course, the overhead that you have to incur with those compiled languages. There's the time to compile and iterate through. There's a bit steeper of a learning curve when it comes to those languages. But the fascinating thing is that, of course, all those languages will run without any issue on the Pi, which is remarkable, given considering how inexpensive the Pi is and yet how powerful those languages are. We're talking enterprise quality class languages. Another question that's come in. What about C assembler? Are they useful or hard in use? I would say C probably not so difficult, but it's going to take a lot longer to get where you need to go because there's a lot more, when you get down to the C programming level, the amount of effort needed to do things takes a little bit of time. And certainly the same goes for assembler. You're getting even closer to the mental. But again, both of those languages will run just fine on the Pi. And then another question is, what's your take from Nerves project from the Elixir community? I think it's a fascinating project. While I'm not, I would say, a strong Elixir developer, I do have friends who are amazing Elixir programmers, and they've written some incredible things, not only for their own internal home use, but they've written some for companies that are doing phenomenal. And we're talking, in almost instantaneous, high speed, high availability, enterprise class capabilities on the Pi with Elixir. It is really remarkable stuff. And using Nerves makes it so that the deployments and manageability of those Elixir deployments, particularly in a company, make it much, much more manageable and easier to coordinate. Got another question. Have you struggled with USB bus limitations capacity and tips to solve it? I have not run into those problems, but then again, I haven't really stressed the USB bus that much. The only thing I've plugged into the USB so far are the IR blaster, the keyboard, and a mouse, and some additional external storage. But even with all those devices plugged in simultaneously, I haven't seen much. But then again, I really haven't stressed the USB buses on the Pi all that much. My projects are, predominantly home automation based. So unlike some of my friends who've been using them in, again, those high speed, high availability environments, I have not had to deal with some of the constraints that, something as is remarkable, but yet limited that the Pi can be, particularly in those sort of enterprise situations. Do we have any other questions? Okay, I think we're getting close to our time limit here. So if there are no other questions, I once again thank you so much for your time today. And I wish you best of success with your Python Pi projects.